A movie review page from FreeCodeCamp, that's what we're going to be building. All right, that's what we're going to be doing here in this one, is building a movie review page. We're going to be going through FreeCodeCamp's lab that they have over this. And while we're going through this, make sure in the comments down below, put in what your favorite movie is of all time that you've ever seen down below in the comments. But if this is your first time watching us, my name is Rob. I'm with PreCodeCamp, where I am going through some of the free CodeCamp modules that are out there and kind of going through them from an instructor's point of view. So if that sounds like something that you would like listening to or watching, then you came to the right channel. Make sure that you give us a like on the video because that does help out that YouTube algorithm. And I thank you so much for that. Let's go ahead and dive in and see what we're actually going to be creating here with the FreeCodeCamp building a movie review page. All right, so let's see what we're going to be going over here. It says that we're going to be building an app that's very similar to this. And again, we are going to be building exactly what they are doing here. So we're just going to go line by line, user story by user story to kind of build this out. I have not gone through this myself, but what I typically do in these videos is we will go through each user story that will show us how to build this or what it's looking for the user story. And then at the very end, we're going to test out our code. Now, with that being said, I might make mistakes throughout this, but rest assured by the end of the video, we will have completed our task with all of the unit tests being completed. So that way you can get your check mark for completing this lab. So that is the goal. Just know that we're going to do it step by step and we may make mistakes. So that's the warning here. Okay. Everything will be chaptered out down below this video based upon user story. So let's go ahead and get started with user story number one. So user story number one, it tells us that we should have a main element. Okay. And where are we going to be putting all of our code to begin with here? And at this point, in our journey, it looks like we are strictly HTML, no CSS or anything like that. And if we want anything to be shown on the page, all of our work is going to be done inside the body tag. And notice that we have an opening body and a closing body, and that's where our code should and need to start here. Now, this main element that it's asking us to do, it is a semantic tag, meaning that it's just a way for us to group things that are like in nature. We're not going to actually see this on the page. So what I'm talking about here is a main tag, and I'm just going to do opening and closing. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you're going to be repeated or hear this information again, which is if we're going to have an opening tag, we're going to have a closing tag, and I'm going to worry about filling it in later. We'll see this here in the H1 tags that I can see that we're going to be building here in the future. But each user story is going to be building upon each other, and it's going to kind of give us a recipe for making this page on how they wanted us to do. So again, we're not going to see anything at this point. The main is just a semantic tag. It lets SEO, web crawlers, screen readers know, hey, this is the main content of our space of our HTML page. Okay, so that should satisfy user story number one. So user story number two, it tells us that inside the main element, and so that's where I have my cursor, we need to have an H1 element with the movie title. And the one that they used was the Rise Beyond. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep things simple. We're not going to change things up. And so it just wants an H1 tag with some information in between it. And again, this is where I'm talking about where, hey, we want that opening and closing tag because so many times, especially going through FreeCodeCamp as well as new beginners, we forget to put the closing tags on things. And so we're just going to do movie review. And we want to do Rise Beyond. Perfect. So now we're starting to see text appear over in our preview. That looks good. And that should satisfy user story number two. So user story number three, it says that we should have an image element displaying the movie cover. Your image element should have a descriptive text, which is your alt attribute. And also we are able to utilize the source image, and they give us an image that we can use for displaying purposes. So again, you can use whatever image you want, but it also gives us one here. Now, this is going to be one of my teaching points here in this video is I am a strong believer in searching things and also not totally memorizing things. You get used to a few of these tags, you know what it's asking for. But for beginners, totally, totally okay for you to go out there and search. So if you don't know what an image tag looks like, or you don't have it in your notes, then I would suggest go and do a Google search, do image tag HTML, and this W3 Schools will show up here. And it provides you with some information of what an image tag looks like. And things that I want to bring to your attention is it's a void element, meaning that we don't have to have a closing tag argument on here. And it has a few attributes in here. And this one provides width and height, not necessarily needed. But we can come down here to get more information as, hey, the SRC, that's the path to the image. What does the alt attribute do? It specifies the alternate text for the image. So if the image becomes unavailable for some reason, maybe that server went down, then it's going to display text there instead. And, some screen readers also utilize the alternate text to help describe the image. So anyways, like I said, great resource, W3 Schools. If you're unfamiliar with these tags, no shame in searching for these. Go ahead and go back here. So now that we know that the image tag is a void element, I'm just going to start filling the stuff out. I'm going to do IMG. And then, like I said, I'm going to close it off here. And in between here, I know that I need a source. I'm going to set that equal to some empty strings. And then the alt, I want to set that to empty strings as well. And that is my boilerplate for an image tag of the bare minimums of what I should need. I mean, you really don't need the alt, but it's always good to have it in there. Plus it says that it is looking for it. Okay, so let's take a look at the image here. So we can go ahead and copy this and put that in the SRC. Okay, so let's go ahead and paste that in there. Now we get the nice image. And then as far as the alternate tag, again, you can be as descriptive as you want. The only thing that we have in here just needs to be a single set of a string, meaning anything that you put in here has to be in between quotes. And I'm just going to put the rise beyond movie poster. Okay, so that is just some descriptive text to put in there. Again, how could we see this without not having that image available? Is we can make a typo on here and we should see the image broken and we see the alternate text that we see there. So that's just another thing to kind of play around with, take a look at to see if these things are working here for you. But this should satisfy user story number 3. User story number 4, it says that we should have a paragraph element, okay? This is going to be a brief movie description, and I'm assuming that this can go below or above, but I'm just going to keep it in line with what we have seen from the example. And so down here, we just want the opening and closing tags of a paragraph tag, okay? Again, this is going to keep us nice and straight on that narrow path of making sure that our code is bug-free by putting that opening and closing tag on there. And then we can put in the description. I went ahead and copied what they had from their example project that we saw up here. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste that right here. And we can now see that we have a nice little paragraph based upon the copy and paste there. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and scroll up here. And again, that's all in the paragraph tag. That should satisfy our user story number 4. Okay. All right. So user story number 5, I was pre-looking at this one, and this one might be the one that we have the most trouble with, just because it has a lot of information in it. And we're just going to break it down step by step and also reference the example because that will give us an idea of what we're kind of looking at visually. But it says on here real briefly that we need to have a paragraph element to display the movie rating. Now, within this paragraph element, it needs to have the following items. We need to make sure that it has the words movie rating, but the movie rating needs to be wrapped in a strong element, means that it needs to be bold. And then it says we should also have a span element that will kind of contain the stars. And we want to make sure that it has an attribute for the aria hidden to be set to true, okay? And then following the stars, we're going to put a numerical value on there, 9.2 over 10, right after the span. So again, lots of words on here. How do we break this down? What does that look like? But we can look at the example project here and notice that the movie rating that we see right here, it is bold, okay? So what I want us to kind of visualize here is this whole thing from movie rating all the way here is in a paragraph tag. And within that paragraph tag, we have movie rating typed out, but it's going to be wrapped in a bold tag. And then we're going to follow that up with a span that shows the stars. And then we're going to do the rating shortly after the span. And that's really all what user story number 5 is talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. I'm going to come back in here, and it says that we need to create a paragraph tag. So let's go ahead and create another paragraph tag. So again, I'm just going to do opening and closing on it. Okay. The next thing it says on the 5, on user story number 5, is that we need to have something in there called movie rating. So I'm going to go ahead and start my wrap of strong. Again, opening and closing. And then in between the strong, that's where I want to type in movie rating. Okay. And it needs to have movie rating colon. And we can kind of see it showing up right down here. And that's perfect. Now, after the strong, I'm going to go ahead and hit the enter key. That's where the span is going to go into here. So again, I'm just opening and closing these tags. And I know that I'm going to put something in between that tag. Now I'm going to put these stars in here. So I'm going to highlight these stars and then I'm going to paste them in there. Okay. So now we can see that our stars, I'm going to go ahead and move my picture here so it doesn't block. But the movie rating on here, it is now still all one line. That's what that span does. Keeps everything also in line as well. But it wants us to do something special with the span, and it wants the aria hidden. It wants that to be set to true. Okay. Which means it's going to be hidden by the screen readers out there. So it's not reading these stars. And that's what that is about. So we want to set that equal to true. And there we go. So that right there completes this bullet point here of making sure that we have a span element with the stars and we have that aria hidden set to true. Then it says after the span. Okay. So that's right down here. I'm outside of the span, but I'm still inside that paragraph. And that's where it wants us to put the 9.2 over 10 as the example. So that's what I'm going to do. Put it right there. And now we can see it's all in one line. It's exactly how they had it in the original example with the stars, with the strong typing, and the numerical value at the end of the span. Okay. And I'm going to see if I can bring this out some, or maybe even put a space in here or something to make sure that we can see that it is outside of the span. Okay. All right. I think that should satisfy user story number 5. Let's move on to user story number 6. All right. So now we're on user story number 6. It says we should have an H2 element with the text of cast members. So again, this is going to be after the paragraph tag. And we want that H2 in here. Again, closing it off to make sure that we don't get any errors. Next one inside here, it says it wants to be cast members. And there we go. We can see that down here as cast members. All right, perfect. That is complete for user story number 6. Let's move on to number 7. So user story number 7 here, it says we should use a UL element. Okay, that's very vague, but let's just go ahead and use one. Unordered list. All right, again, opening and closing. There we go. That is user story number 7 completed. I think that one was the most difficult one of this journey here. Moving on to the next one. So user story number 8, it says inside our UL element, our unordered list element that we just got done creating, let's go ahead and add multiple elements. And so I feel like I'm going to set one up here, and then I can just do a copy and paste and get the other ones put in there. So again, make sure that we're doing the opening and closing tags on here for this element. And then inside the element, it wants us to have the actor's name followed by as, I guess, their character in this movie. So what we're going to do in here is wants the actor's name to be bolded by utilizing strong. So let's do that. So we're going to do opening, closing tags for strong. And let's go ahead and put the actor's name. They gave the example in there, James Holloway. And so we can kind of see that down here, James Holloway. And then we're going to put the following text at Ethan Carter. Okay. And hopefully we can see that the James Holloway is bolded. And then we have the Ethan Carter, or as Ethan Carter, as normal text. And so what I'm going to do next, now that I have a good working one, I can just go ahead and copy that and then paste it down here and just change it because it says on here we want a few. I'm not going to do all of the actors that they had on theirs. We'll do Olivia Sterling, and then it's not going to be as Ethan Carter, but it's going to be as Lena Midke. And so that should suffice for what we need. We got the bold, we got the as, and then the author. And I think that should be enough to pass these tests and pass our understanding of it. And let's go ahead and run these tests here, and hopefully we get confetti. We'll see. Looks like we failed on some. Let's go ahead and see what we didn't do. It says the span element needs to be inside the paragraph and should have 10 stars, either filled in with the filled in star or the unfilled in star. And so let's see here. It is inside of a paragraph, but maybe the way that I did things, it didn't work properly. Let's see what's going on here. Making sure I have the right amount of stars. All right, so I reread what it was talking about, and I just needed to add parentheses to this. That's what it was talking about. So like I said, sometimes it is picky when it's going through these tests, but let's go ahead and check this. And then we get the confetti and we're able to submit it. So if you stuck around this long, congratulations. Thanks for watching this video. We learned a few things with HTML, image tags, a little bit of the span and what the ARIA hidden does. But thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and put down in the comments down below on if you had any trouble with this. Where did you have the trouble at? All right. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.